in a tough and competitive business world, does it matter whether employees are good or bad at recognizing emotions? Well, it turns out it does matter. Our international research team from the University of Bonn, Illinois State University, and WHU Otto Beisheim School of Management conducted a research study in which we found that employees who are good at recognizing emotions are the ones who have a higher salary than those who are bad at recognizing emotions. The ability to recognize emotions is a very fundamental ability, and it refers to the extent to which we can see in the faces of other people how they feel, or hear in their voices the emotions that they're experiencing. Some people are really good at seeing this, at recognizing emotions. They can clearly see if someone is happy or sad, angry, ashamed or annoyed, or proud or joyful. But others find this difficult, and they're not so good at recognizing emotions. They often maneuver through our social world relatively insensitive to the emotion expression of other people. So why does this ability to recognize emotion have anything to do with annual income? Well, our research study shows that there are two intervening factors that channel the effect from emotion recognition ability to annual income. And these two factors are what scientists call political skill and interpersonal facilitation. Political skill refers to the extent to which people are socially attuned, to which they are influential, well-connected, and apparently sincere. And our research shows that those who are good at recognizing emotions are also the ones who tend to be high on this political skill. And those who are high on political skill tend to be the ones who are good at interpersonal facilitation. That means they're cooperative, considerate, and helpful, particularly in assisting co-workers to achieve high performance as well. And this interpersonal facilitation then in turn relates to annual income, such that those who are better at interpersonal facilitation are the ones who have a higher annual income. So what we found is a chain of effects in which the ability to recognize emotion relates to political skill. Political skill in turn relates to interpersonal facilitation, and interpersonal facilitation in the end relates to annual income. What's the evidence for our finding? Well, we conducted two studies, both with a wide range of employees from different types of jobs and in different types of companies. In study one, we had 142 employees who we tested for their emotion recognition ability. That means that we gave them pictures of faces and recordings of voices and asked them to identify the emotion that was expressed in those pictures and voices respectively. Now, those who are good at recognizing emotions tend to identify the emotion correctly, whereas those who find this difficult also have a difficult time in seeing what type of emotion was expressed here. The measure we use, of course, was validated and is widely accepted as a measure of recognizing the ability to recognize emotions. We also asked the peers of these employees in their companies to assess the employees' political skill, again on a widely used common measure, validated measure, and we asked their supervisor to rate their interpersonal facilitation, again on a widely used and validated measure. Finally, we asked the employees themselves to tell us about their annual income so that we could take this data to have an information as to how much they earn. Once we had all this data together, we then conducted structural equation models to analyze these data. And the results provided evidence for the chain of effect that I described earlier, such that those who are high on emotion recognition ability also tend to be very good in political skill. Those who are very good in political skill tend to be better at interpersonal facilitation, and those who are good at interpersonal facilitation tend to be the ones with the high income. Now, most notably, this finding even remained when we controlled for various other factors that we know matter in the context of annual income. For instance, it does matter how much people work. It also matters what their work experience is. It matters what kind of education they received, and it matters what kind of job they do. But even if you take all those factors into account, the effect of emotion recognition ability on annual income still remains significant. And, perhaps even more importantly, we replicated those same findings in a second study with 190 employees. This time, even controlling for people's personality, their conscientiousness, and people's cognitive intelligence. Again, we found the higher the ability to recognize emotions, the higher the employee's annual income. So what does this all mean for our educational institutions and for companies? Well, it first and foremost means that emotional recognition, the ability to see the emotions of others, is an ability for which companies are willing to pay a premium. And that means that emotional recognition ability is valued, not only socially and psychologically, of course, but also economically. So if emotional recognition is an ability that is important in the context of our jobs, we should expect this ability to be taught and trained in our education institutions, alongside all other abilities that we believe prepare people for the jobs that they will one day pick up. But look around and look into the curricula of your school, of your university, perhaps your business school, and check if emotion recognition is indeed part of that curriculum. If it isn't, perhaps now is the time to demand that it is. And for companies, the imperative here is to take this study to tell employees how important emotion recognition is, and perhaps to offer them training if they're not good at it. Also perhaps to include emotion recognition abilities in the selection and promotion processes. And maybe this is also an opportunity to reconsider the organizational culture, if it's one that's characterized more by neutrality, or perhaps even a suppressive tone. Perhaps it's time to open up a bit and to provide safe ways of expressing emotions, so that others will find it easier to see how their peers, how their colleagues, how their supervisors and subordinates are feeling. So, in summary, our study shows that people earn more money if they're good at recognizing emotions. So, it does indeed pay to have an eye for emotions.